You know, for me, local music is that expression of the place. You know, you can tell sometimes where a music is coming from geographically. And I feel that way about Wichita in a lot of ways. Any city worth its salt has some sort of art community, right? Be it visual art, be it theater. And music is, I think, one of the most important things that we have. We consume it constantly, right? It's constantly around us. So that tells us that there's some value to it, right, in the larger world. But you gotta have people that support it.
My name's Daniel Davis. I guess I'm a musician, and I've been involved in, DIY punk culture and music culture for pretty much the last 20 years. Ran some DIY venues, started a festival in 2004 called ICT Fest that my friend Matthew Clagg runs these days. Booked a lot of tours, made records. I play in a couple of bands, and I also run a record label called This Ain't Heaven Recording Concern.
You know, absolutely one of the most influential musicians of his generation in Wichita. Back in the days of the Eagles Lodge on North Broadway, Dan was, if not the first, one of the first people to start booking bands in there. What he did in that time was create this pocket where young people could go and hear music. Because remember too, 2003, 2004, the liquor laws were not what they are today. It was hard to find a place that served 80% food and would have live music, right? Because that was the only way you could get in if you were under 21. So all of a sudden, there's the Eagles Lodge, which is a private club. Doesn't have that problem. Yeah, people can drink at the bar, but you can also go in this front room, get sweaty, and listen to all these bands.
I think all ages shows matter because the younger people always have the most energy to offer. They're the ones also with the most time to do it. You know, all ages venues, they vary from DIY house shows to, kind of stuff like this in the back of a drum shop to now the pop-up park is offering like a place for all ages shows to happen. So people just see a need and then they, fill in where they can.
In Wichita, it's, oh, you're in a cool band and you like to play some shows? Run a venue and become a booking agent. Or it maybe will not happen for you.
The drawback of Wichita is that it's sort of a bubble. I feel like a lot of bands form here and, they run their course here before they're heard on a larger scale. My friend Lwayne Glass, who plays under the name Dream Crusher, maybe, as far as dark, heavy music goes, the most important young musician I've ever met or had the pleasure of being associated with. But we would do shows here. I play, and there's 60 people in the room. And then Lwayne goes on, and everybody leaves, wiped the room. And so, after a while, it was yo, this isn't working. People don't want to support what you're doing. Now, Lwayne was a non-binary, a vegan, straight edge, black kid, a minority within a minority within a minority in a space that already has not the greatest conception of how to bring minorities and people in the majority together. So an opportunity came up for Lwayne to tour with someone in New York, even though we were good friends, was kind of what are we playing with? If you don't have to come back, don't come back. So that was the idea. Lwayne went to New York, and then New York City showed respect. The next album that Lwayne put out was featured in Fader, was featured in Vice. Rolling Stone streamed it before it came out. The last time Lwayne hit me up to get tapes, he was playing at the Museum of Modern Art, and it was really, really satisfying for me, and also maybe the most depressing thing that's ever happened for me as a musician in this town, because I had to admit that as open as things were and as satisfied as I was with the level that I was at, it wasn't open enough. Lwayne's family's here. You shouldn't have to go to New York City to be a non-binary, vegan, straight-edge noise musician. You should be able to do that here. The lack of local culture and infrastructure for stuff like that hurt at that point for me.
Having a vibrant music scene anywhere adds to the quality of life. It just does. Knowing that there's a place where I can go and see a live performance and I can hear original music, and I might even be able to rub elbows with the person who made that music, right? That gives me a sense of ownership in it, right?
If there was no local music, there would be no music at all, because everything starts at that level and people gain support through their communities, and that's why we have music.
I think if you don't invest in do-it-yourself culture, in local artists, and people who have weird businesses. If you stamp that stuff out, then you close the door. They'll never bring you anything cool to do. You either are the cool thing or you support the cool thing. Cities are never the cool thing. They're places where cool things live. Unless we do something other than just allow people who can open a business to do so, if that's the extent of our support, we're waiting on the clock to run out for people to leave.